we're going to move to question time, and I call Senator Bragg.
Thank you very much, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Yesterday, you could not confirm whether the 2,000 homes that the Housing Minister said were completed by the Housing Australia Future Fund were built or acquired. Do you know today if those 2,000 homes were built or were they acquired?
Great question.
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Well, Senator, I'm very pleased that you like me so much that you keep asking me the question rather than the representing minister. And I also am pleased that you give me the opportunity to again remind everybody that you are standing in the way of 80,000 homes. Let me remind all the young people in the galleries that this gentleman here is standing in the way of more homes being built.
Minister Wong. Order. Order. Senator Bragg.
President, this is a point of order on relevance. The question was whether the 2,000 homes had been built or were they acquired by the government.
Yep. And the minister has just order. The minister has just hang on a minute, Senator Wong. The minister has just got to her feet and begun to answer the question. I will listen carefully. And if the minister is not relevant, I will draw her to the question. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Senator Bragg, the advice I have is that more than 500,000 homes have been built nationwide since Labor was elected. More than 4,000 homes have been completed with Commonwealth investment, and 28,000 are in planning and construction stages. In their decade in office, the coalition built 373 social and affordable homes. Congratulations, Senator Bragg. Oh, well, that really is quite an achievement, isn't it? 373 homes in a decade.
Order.
And now
Order across the chamber. Senator Watt. Minister, please continue.
And I again remind Senator Bragg that his first housing policy of this parliamentary term is the opposition to 80,000 homes.
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Bragg.
So this is a point of order on relevance. The question was quite clear about the split between how many had been built by the Commonwealth and how many had been acquired by the Commonwealth Government.
Thank you, Senator Bragg. I will draw the minister back to the question. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. Well, the advice I have is more than 4,000 homes have been completed with Commonwealth investment. 28,000 are in planning and construction stages. I would make the point, Senator Bragg, as you would know, you delayed and opposed the Housing Australia Future Fund. So therefore, the fund only announced its first round of funding in September 2024, and obviously this has delayed the construction of many homes for Australians.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Bragg, first supplementary.
Thanks very much. Well, Minister, obviously buying houses rather than building them would make the housing crisis worse. So I ask you again, for the second time, can you please clarify if the HAF is still purchasing homes in competition with Australians?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong. Would you like the... Just start the... Order! Senator Bragg, I'm not asking you to go into commentary, simply to repeat the first part of the question.
I was distracted and I just missed the first part of your question,
and I've asked Senator Bragg just to repeat the first couple of sentences, please.
Question. Okay, well, the first part of the question is, as you know, if the government is competing with Australians in the market and buying houses against Australians in a hot market, it's going to make the problem worse. So
you're not really repeating the question, Senator Bragg. You've
asked me to repeat it. You get the gist.
Thank you. Minister Wong.
I think I get the gist of it. I mean, the senator is making the very good point that the housing supply does affect pricing, which is why it is passing strange that he has been so opposed, along with his colleagues, to adding to Australia's housing supply. So on the one hand he says, well, government shouldn't compete in the market, making the point that supply does affect affordability, but at the same time he opposes the government's attempts to put more supply into the market.
Senator Wong, please resume your seat. When there's order in this place. Senator Bragg.
It's a point of order on relevance. The question was quite clear that we wanted to see clarification as to whether the HAF is still purchasing homes in direct competition with Australians. It was quite clear.
Senator Bragg, you will recall I asked you to repeat the first part of your question. You chose to add commentary. The minister is now being relevant to all of the comments that you've made, including your question. Minister Wong.
Thank you. Can I again make this point? The Coalition complains about housing affordability, but the Coalition wanted to abolish the Housing Australia Future Fund, which would have added more supply, thereby making houses more affordable. The Coalition also this term has opposed the build-to-rent policy, so standing in the way of 80,000 homes. And now the Coalition wants to pretend they care about housing.
Has expired. Order. Order. Senator Bragg, second supplementary.
Well, as we didn't get an answer to that question, the question again is, can you please clarify if the Housing Australia Future Fund is still purchasing homes in direct competition with Australians?
Thank you, Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
I'll take the question.
Order.
Back up to 11 today.
Thank you. The point about direct competition, because that really goes to the issue of supply. And the problem is, Senator, is your position is utterly illogical. So what you are saying to all of these young people is you oppose adding to supply, you oppose government engaging in the housing market to try and add to supply. These are facts which you do not like to hear,
Order.
aren't they, Senator?
Minister Wong, please resume your seat. Order. Order. Senator Ruston, the order applies to you. Senator Bragg.
Point of order on relevance. The question was quite clear. We're seeking clarification as to whether the Housing Australia Future Fund is purchasing homes in competition with Australians. It was a very clear question.
And the minister is being relevant to the question. Senator Bragg. Minister Wong.
Senator, can I tell you what we want to do? We want to deliver Housing Australia Future Funds. President,
Order.
may I answer the question?
Order. Order.
Is this? Thank you.
Minister Wong, please resume.
These are the Housing
Minister
Australia
Wong,
Future Fund
Minister
projects.
Wong, please resume your seat. Order. Order. I want there to be silence for the next 23 seconds. Minister Wong.
These are the Housing Australia Future Funds projects in your state, Senator Bragg, which you don't want to see delivered. 580 in Merrylands and Regents Park, 144 in Maroubra, 221 in Macquarie Park and Lane Cove, 16 in Coonabarabran and 10 in Casino and South Grafton. These are what you are standing in the way of.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Stewart.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Women, Senator Gallagher. Since coming to government in May 2022, advancing women's economic equality has been a core priority of the Albanese government. We want women to have more opportunity and more choices. We want women to earn more and keep more of what they earn. This commitment has driven groundbreaking workplace relations reforms, significant investment in skills and education, and greater recognition and valuing of paid and unpaid care. What is the impact of the government's investments and reforms on women's economic equality and on women's daily lives?
Thank you, Senator Stewart. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Stewart for the work that she does in advancing women's economic equality and for being part of a very big team of women in the Albanese Labor government. I think the second majority female federal government in history, and for putting all of these issues firmly at the centre of our policy making. The ABS data released on the 14th of August shows that the gender pay gap is at the lowest level ever since records began, at 11.5% still, but that is down from 14.1% in 2022 when we came to government. That means that over a fortnight, women workers are over $500 a fortnight better off with the work that we've done to drive up women's wages and close the gender pay gap. We've also got a record high of women's workforce participation at 63.5%, showing that more women are finding extra hours to work, and this is something that we've been focused on as well. Now, this isn't by accident that we are seeing these results. This is the result of intentional, sustained work, including of many, if not all, of my colleagues on this side of the chamber, to make sure that women workers get a better deal and take home more in their weekly pay packets. This has included the work we've done around pay increases for aged care workers and those coming for early childhood care and education workers. The Workplace Gender Equality Agency has found that pay increases for low-paid workers, like for those for aged care workers, are driving the progress to close the gender pay gap. But obviously there is more work to do. We've made the changes to the Fair Work Act. We've got the gender undervaluation work underway in 5 key awards. We've introduced gender pay gap reporting at employer level. There is more work to do, but we are seeing the signs of progress.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Stewart, first supplementary.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Minister. Closing the gender pay gap is essential to ensuring women are paid properly, that their work is valued and that women are retiring with decent retirement savings. What role is the Workplace Gender Equality Agency playing in helping to accelerate closing the gender pay gap?
Thank you, Senator Stewart. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Stewart for the supplementary. And senators will know that WGEA's latest progress report was tabled this week. In the 10 years since WGEA's first report, an additional 1.6 million employees are covered by workplace gender equality reporting. And during that time, the gender pay gap has reduced from 28.6% to 21.1%. Employers who have done a gender pay gap analysis has increased from 24% to 68%, and there's been a significant increase in employers with family and domestic violence policies in place. But the report also shows there are areas where progress is too slow. Patterns of industry gender segregation have barely changed in the last 10 years. Women continue to work part-time at much higher rates than men, and in the private sector, women are still underrepresented on governing bodies. But WGEA have done an amazing job. I thank all of them, all of the staff who have contributed over the last 10 years in driving down the gender pay gap.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Stewart, second supplementary.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Minister. WGEA's progress report shows that progress in addressing industry gender segregation has been slow. Research also shows that industry gender segregation is one of the key drivers of the gender pay gap. What is the extent of industry gender segregation in Australia, and why do we need to challenge this segregation in the interest of our economy?
Thank you, Senator Stewart. Minister Gallagher.
And thank you, President. I thank Senator Stewart for that supplementary as well. Recently Jobs and Skills Australia have confirmed that only 21% of occupations in Australia could be considered gender balanced. Industry gender segregation is a driver of the gender pay gap, we know that, and there's also a clear correlation between segregated industries and the worker shortages that we're currently facing. So for more than half of occupations in the national shortage, women make up less than 20% of their total workforce. These occupations include metal fitters and machinists, motor mechanics, electricians, when only 2% of the workforce are women, mining engineers, construction managers, software and application programmers. And for 14% of occupations in the national shortage, men make up less than 20% of the total workforce. So this is something that we are going to continue to focus on. We want to make sure that we are dealing with gender segregation and making sure we're getting much more balance across those industries, because it's good for pay and good for addressing workforce shortage.
Minister. Senator Duniam.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. Can the minister confirm that the government is working on developing a range of tariffs in the form of a carbon border adjustment mechanism?
Thank you, Senator Duniam. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. I'm wondering if this is the next iteration of a scare campaign. But I'm asked about tariffs, and it's a useful question, and I hope that Senator Farrell will be able to contribute more to the chamber later today on this issue, because, of course, what the government is doing is seeking to reduce tariffs. We're seeking to reduce tariffs. This was one of the issues. My recollection is that the Economic Roundtable did discuss. We have a view on this side of the chamber, and I would have hoped it was a similar view, that tariffs are an impost upon consumers. We have a very clear
Minister,
view.
please resume your seat. Senator Duniam.
President, a point of order on direct relevance. I've asked specifically about a particular tariff, not other things the government may or may not be doing. I ask you to draw the minister to the question.
I believe the minister is being relevant, but I'll continue to listen carefully. Senator Duniam. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. In relation to I think this is a net zero question fundamentally, obviously, and you might recall. Well, of course it is. Of course it is. Okay, perhaps we should just go through. Perhaps we should just go back to basics. When you try to reduce emissions in your country, you also have to look at what is happening elsewhere. And when you have emissions-intensive industries, you obviously have to look at their competitiveness and consider that in terms of your domestic mechanism. So that's the basic economics of it. That has been taken into account in the safeguard mechanism. You might recall previously the government has consulted with those industries for whom these are issues, and will continue, I'm sure, in the context of the setting of the next target, to consult with industries that are affected.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Duniam, first supplementary.
I think there is a tariff on the way. Minister, will your government categorically rule out imposing any form of tariff on imports like building materials, fertiliser, fuels, that will only drive up the cost of essentials for all Australians?
Thank you, Senator Duniam. Minister Wong.
President, I would make the point to those opposite, and I'm conscious that people are interested in this issue. We on this side think that climate change is real. We on this side think that net zero is an important commitment for our economy. We on this side understand that the global economy is moving to net zero, and we have to compete in such a
Minister
world.
Wong, please resume your seat. Senator Cash.
Thank you, President. Point of order in relation to direct relevance. There are a number of words that the minister could have referred to: will, your, out, any, of, on. Climate change, though, wasn't one of them.
Senator Cash.
So I would ask you to draw the minister to the question.
Thank you, Senator Cash. Minister Ayres.
I believe it, but carbon and climate change are indeed linked.
Even a casual listening
Senator Ayres, why are you on your feet?
Well, apart from stretching, on the point of order.
On the point of order.
On the point of order, thank you.
Order. Order.
She's clearly been relevant. The question was about carbon border adjustments, and she was directly referring to it.
Thank you, Senators Cash and Senator Ayres. The minister is being relevant, and I will continue to listen to her answers.
Thank you, President. Perhaps I should start with this proposition that carbon is relevant to climate. So, if you're dealing with, it turns out if you actually want a policy in relation to climate change, and you want to try and reduce the emissions in your economy to net zero, it turns out you actually have to think about carbon emissions. So, this is part of the sensible economic approach that we are taking to the issue of climate change, and it stands in stark contrast to those opposite.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Duniam, second supplementary.
Yes, President, thank you. Given the Prime Minister has said, and I quote, tariffs are a form of economic self-harm and a recipe for slower growth and higher inflation, given you've also confirmed that the government is pursuing such a tariff, why would Labor seek to impose a carbon border tariff that would ultimately be paid for by all Australian families and businesses?
Minister Wong.
First, again, he has the senator has misrepresented what I said. Second, unlike you, Senator, we actually believe that it is our responsibility and our mandate from the Australian people to act on climate change. Now, I know that you are still split on the issue of net zero. I know that Senator Cash, as leader in the Senate, defied her own leader to press for an abolition of net zero in their party room. Well, quite an extraordinary thing for a member of the leadership group of the alternative government doesn't back her leader. But we on this side believe that ensuring that we have a sensible economic approach to getting to net zero is the right thing for our economy now and the right thing for our economy in decades to come, and it is a mandate that we have from the Australian people.
Thank you, Senator Wong. Senator Faruqi.
Thank you, President. My question is to Minister Wong. Overnight, all members of the UN Security Council, except Trump's America, backed the IPC's declaration that the famine in Gaza is man-made, with 500,000 people at risk of starvation. By blocking food and aid, Israel has engineered a famine at a scale, pace and severity not seen before to kill Palestinians. More than 2,000 Palestinians have been killed in Israel's death traps while seeking food. More than 300 have been starved to death. Starvation is designed to maximize suffering and is a most barbaric way to kill. Minister, all your words, your outrage, statements and letters have done nothing to stop Israel's genocide and starvation. When will you impose meaningful sanctions on Israel to force them to end this starvation and open up all borders for aid?
Thank you, Senator Faruqi. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. We condemn Israel's denial of aid. We have done so with partners. We condemn the killing of civilians seeking to access water and food. We have issued statements with multiple other countries to place pressure on Israel. You may have seen Prime Minister Netanyahu's response. Aid should be delivered. Aid should be delivered, and we think. We are all horrified by what is occurring, and I think you can see what this government is seeking to do with other countries to try and find a pathway to peace.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Faruqi, first supplementary.
The Israeli ambassador to Australia says there is no starvation in Gaza as he spooks Israel's lies and propaganda. The Israeli ambassador represents a rogue, genocidal state that is committing war crime after war crime. Why is he still here? Minister, you yourself have said that you condemn Israel's denial of starvation. When will you expel the Israeli ambassador from Australia?
Thank you, Senator Faruqi. Minister Wong.
We disagree with the Israeli ambassador's comments. I think that the findings of the UN body that you reference confirm what we have been saying with others for some time. And what the Prime Minister has, if I may, Senator, and what the Prime Minister has called out, where he said very clearly, failing to provide aid is a breach of international law. International law requires that humanitarian assistance be provided. In relation to the diplomatic relationship, Senator, we have diplomatic relationships with many countries. We have diplomatic relationships.
Order.
We have diplomatic relationships with countries with whom we do not agree. We have those relationships because they are a way in which we can communicate, we can have dialogue, we can express our views, we can assert our interests. That is called diplomacy, and that is what governments do.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Faruqi, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Hundreds of thousands of people have been marching in the streets across this country to demand you sanction Israel and end the two-way arms trade. Cricket hero Usman Khawaja has today asked the Prime Minister to take the opportunity to show leadership on Gaza. Will you listen to the people of this country and finally choose leadership over cowardice? Will you finally choose humanity over politics?
Thank you, Senator Faruqi. Minister Wong.
I hope in this country we can express our views on these issues without seeking to personally diminish others. Certainly that's the approach I seek to take. Yes, the Prime Minister did meet with Mr Khawaja. I also hope to meet with him. I would say in relation to sanctions, you would be aware we have sanctioned Israel. We have sanctioned 2 Israeli ministers and a number of entities and individuals in relation to their activities in abrogating the human rights of Palestinians. You would also know, Senator, that this government has made a decision that we will recognise Palestine at High-Level Week. And we've done that in concert with others because we are seeking to find and build a pathway to peace in circumstances where we see a horrific war continuing. So we will continue to do that work with other countries because we are doing what we can internationally.
The time for answering has expired. Senator Brown.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister for Trade and Tourism, Senator Farrell. The Albanese Labor government has been working to make Australia's economy more resilient and our exports more diverse. In improving our relationship with Australia's biggest trading partners, we've seen the removal of over $20 billion in trade impediments with China. What else is the government doing to open new export opportunities and create more well-paying local jobs through trade?
Well done. Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and can I thank Senator Brown for that question that I know is so important for her home state of Tasmania. Australia's economic prosperity is directly linked to open and stable international markets. 1 in 4 Australian jobs relate to trade. Jobs in export industries pay 9% more on average, and 32% of Australia's economic output is supported by trade. I'm proud of what the Albanese Labor government has achieved in the past 3 years. The solid foundations laid for continuing the work of building stronger and deeper trading relationships with international partners. I recently delivered a keynote speech at the Lowy Institute outlining the Albanese Labor government's second-term trade agenda. Market diversification will continue to be central to the government's trade agenda. The government will work hard to bring priority agreements into force and progress ongoing negotiations. This includes progressing trade negotiations with the European Union, which would open a market of over 450 million consumers. We're keen to build on the existing trade deal with India to create a new market access for Aussie exporters, particularly for our farmers. And we remain committed to strengthening economic ties with our neighbours by implementing a range of initiatives under the South East Asia Economic Strategy. The Albanese government is successfully delivering on our commitment of creating new trade opportunities because more trade means more national income and more well-paying local jobs.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Brown, first supplementary.
Thank you, and thank you, Minister, for that response. One of the many achievements during the Albanese Labor government's first term was signing a new trade agreement with the United Arab Emirates, the gateway to the markets of the Middle East. As Australia's first trade agreement in the Middle East, it unlocks incredible potential in the region. What does this new trade agreement mean for Australian businesses, local jobs and Australian consumers?
Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thanks Senator Brown for her first supplementary question, because I know how significant this agreement is going to be for your constituents in Tasmania. So on the 31st of July, the Albanese Labor government passed the necessary legislation to incorporate the United Arab Emirates Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement into law. It's a great deal for Australian exporters, with over 99% of all Australian products soon to enter the UAE tariff-free, including meat, dairy, grains and minerals. The agreement will also deliver cheaper prices at the checkout, with Australian households and businesses saving about $40 million a year. The UAE has some of the largest sovereign wealth funds in the world, which through this agreement will help accelerate Australia's energy transition. The Albanese Labor government will continue to pursue trade agreements just like this one.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Brown, second supplementary.
Thank you. Minister, earlier this year, the Trump administration applied tariffs against every nation in the world. What is the Albanese Labor government's approach to removing these tariffs, and what actions have we taken to ensure that Australians are insulated from the effects?
Thank you, Senator Brown. Minister Farrell.
Thank you, President, and thank you, Senator Brown, for that very insightful second supplementary question, because the Australia-US economic partnership has delivered mutual benefits for over 70 years. We are vital to one another's prosperity. In 2024, two-way investment increased to just over $2.9 trillion and a 23.8% increase from 2023. While we were disappointed by the decisions to impose tariffs on Australia, no country has reciprocal tariffs lower than those of Australia. Tariffs drive up prices for consumers, including ordinary working families, who will pay more at the checkout for the goods impacted by them. In response to the global uncertainty these tariffs have caused, the Albanese Labor government is implementing a $50 million initiative to support affected sectors and has already completed 5 new business missions to secure and grow new markets.
Senator Tyrrell.
President, my question is for the Minister for the National Disability Insurance Scheme, Senator McAllister. During the 2022 election campaign, the Labor Party went to great lengths to talk about how serious you are about NDIS co-design. You said the difference between yourselves and the Liberal National Coalition was that you would only make changes to NDIS in consultation, in partnership with the disability community. I've since heard that the National Disability Insurance Agency only learnt about your Thriving Kids announcement through the media. The states tasked with actually implementing the announcement didn't know the details either. Nobody has seen any modelling on the impact of this. So my question is, which of your so-called partners in the disability community actually knew the details before you announced your quote-unquote co-designed $2 billion Thriving Kids announcement?
Thank you, Senator Tyrrell. Senator McAllister.
Well, thank you very much, President, and thank you, Senator Tyrrell, for the opportunity to speak about the announcement. Of course, we have been working with our partners, the states and territories, with communities, with service providers, on foundational supports for a very long time now. And so, in fact, the idea of foundational supports for children, which Thriving Kids responds to, was recommended to us by Professor Bonner Hady and Lisa Paul, who undertook an extensive review and spoke to many thousands of people about what needed to happen to the scheme. And the answer that came back to them and the recommendation that came to government from that inquiry was that we needed to rebuild the system of supports outside of the scheme. The government then engaged with our state and territory partners, and all parties agreed that the place that we would start was with children, because there are plenty of opportunities to do better for our kids.
Senator Ruston.
We don't need parents spending much time, much money, much energy chasing diagnoses when what they're looking for is support. And Thriving Kids is all about establishing opportunities for parents to find support when they need it. There will always be the need for children with high support needs to access the NDIS, and Minister Butler made that very clear in the remarks that he made to the National Press Club. But we can do better for the families and the children affected by developmental delay, and we intend to do so, and we do intend to do so in partnership with experts, with parents, with families, and, of course, with people with disability.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Tyrrell, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. The Minister has publicly dismissed critics of Labor Party's NDIS cuts as extremists, spreading, quote, misinformation. These are people who have legitimate fears about a government that campaigns on consultation and governs in cuts. They are saying people currently on the NDIS will be booted off, people will be receiving less tomorrow than what they're receiving today. Isn't that what your own minister is saying will happen? And if so, who's the one spreading misinformation?
Thank you, Senator Tyrrell. Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, President. This is an important opportunity to clear up some of those statements, Senator Tyrrell, because they are simply not correct. And again, in the speech given by Minister Butler about this matter, he could not have been clearer. For children that are presently on the scheme and for children that join the scheme between now and 2027, when we expect to make changes to the access rules, nothing will change. They will be subject from time to time to the usual assessments that take place for children who come onto the scheme, particularly through the early intervention pathway, because early intervention is intended to provide sufficient support for children, and some of those children won't need support on an ongoing basis. But Minister Butler couldn't have been clearer. We don't intend to leave what he calls as a gap between two stools. We wish to make sure that children now and in the future have the supports that they require.
Time for answering has expired. Senator Tyrrell, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Minister, your government has made new state hospital funding conditional on the states signing up to these new NDIS cuts, which the states seem to be against. If no agreement is reached, will Labor really hold firm and cut hospital beds while it's cutting the NDIS?
Thank you, Senator Tyrrell. Minister McAllister.
Thanks very much, President. Senator Tyrrell, since 2023, we've been in a discussion with the states and the territories about a set of interrelated reforms and funding arrangements. It is the case that states and territories have a keen stake in making sure that they have the resources necessary to run the hospital systems for which they are responsible. It's also the case that they have a keen interest in ensuring that the NDIS is on a sustainable footing. And back in 2023, First Ministers and the Prime Minister agreed that these matters would be dealt with together. At that time, our government placed our offer on the table that we were willing to contribute $5 billion that we expected would be matched by states and territories to establish foundational supports. And as I indicated in my answer to your primary question, we said we would begin with children. That is precisely what we are seeking to do.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Canavan.
Thank you, Madam President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Senator Ayres. Minister, Labor productivity in the electricity, gas, water and waste sector has fallen by 6% since you came to office. Lower productivity in energy production increases costs and therefore increases energy prices. Yet in the government's productivity paper prepared for its economic roundtable, energy productivity or energy prices were not even mentioned. How many jobs have been lost because of rising electricity costs on business?
Senator Ayres.
Well, there's some of this territory I think that Senator Canavan and I agree upon, and some that we don't. It's certainly the case that electricity prices, electricity supply, gas prices are fundamental questions for Australian industry. Australian industry needs affordable electricity and it needs affordable gas, and that is why this government and the announcements that have been made in relation to the reviews in the national electricity market, reviews in terms of the gas market, those reviews are being undertaken, and as you would imagine, I'm very engaged with industry about that important work, because it is important work. One of the messages that is really clear coming back from Australian industry, heavy industry, blue-collar industry, the manufacturing sector, future industrial investors who want to invest in, for example, iron production or critical minerals production in Australia and the current industrial production sector, is that what they want is policy certainty. What they want is a policy framework that delivers more investment in electricity.
Please resume your seat. Senator Cash.
Thank you. It's a point of order in relation to relevance. The question was about the impact of higher electricity prices on this government and how many jobs have been lost as a result.
Thank you, Senator Cash. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President. On the point of order, I submit that Senator Ayres was entirely relevant to a question that deals with the impact of electricity on the economy and industries.
Senator Ayres, I'll draw you to the first part of Senator Canavan's question, which went to gas and electricity prices.
It certainly did. It certainly did. And the one thing that would guarantee a sort of bin fire in terms of gas and electricity prices would be the approach urged by those opposite. And the contest, if only we could provide energy in Australia from the sort of hot waffle that's been emerging from the bitter contest for control of the Liberal and National parties over there. What we saw the outcome of that: less electricity, less gas.
Minister. Thank you, Minister. Senator Canavan, first supplementary.
Sure. Minister, under the Albanese Labor government, electricity prices have skyrocketed by 39%, and yesterday's inflation figures show that electricity prices have gone up by another 13% over the past year. Even after taking out the impacts of the rebates that have ended, electricity prices went up by 5%. The government continues to insist that its investments in wind and solar are the cheapest form of energy. Why are electricity prices going up by so much then?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Ayres.
Well, Senator Canavan, I mean, honestly, the last time this show was in government, you promised gas prices between $4 and $6, and when you left office, gas prices were north of $31. North of $31. The only thing, the big challenge in front of Australia, of course, if we are serious about the future of Australian industry, the big challenge in front of Australia is building our modern electricity system as our industries electrify and new industry comes on stream, which will have an increasing demand for electricity, particularly data centres, which is why it is a mystery to all of us why your side of politics went to the last election with a plan to put prices up and to deliver less industrial electricity.
Thank you, Senator Ayres. Senator Canavan, second supplementary.
Thank you, Madam President. Minister, Australian families and businesses can't keep absorbing higher power bills. On what date will the average annual bill be lower than it was on the 23rd of May 2022, and by how many dollars?
Thank you, Senator Canavan. Minister Ayres.
Well, electricity prices will be lower when there is more supply. There is more supply now than there ever was when you were in government. We are building electricity generation hand over fist here, and the big obstacle to electricity generation programs and projects in the regions, the big obstacle to transmission projects in the regions, of course, we have to work with regional communities and work these issues through. But it's the silly billies. It's the silly billies wandering around, stoking fear, stoking resentment. Senator Cadell, Senator Canavan, all these characters wandering around in a campaign against Australian industry, a campaign against blue-collar jobs, doing everything that they can, to close down Australian industry.
Minister. Senator Whitten.
Thank you, President. My question is for the Minister representing the Treasurer, Minister Gallagher. Does Labor accept that record immigration has outpaced investment in Australia and is driving declining productivity rates?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister Gallagher.
Could I just ask that the question be repeated? Sure. I just missed the second part of it. Sorry, Senator.
Absolutely. Senator Whitten, just repeat the whole question because it's pretty short.
Does Labor accept that record immigration has outpaced investment in Australia and is driving declining productivity rates?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you, President. I thank Senator Whitten for the question. For as long as I can remember, we've been a country that has welcomed and, in fact, supported overseas migration and immigration into Australia, and that has had very positive benefits for our community and our economy. I think if Senator Whitten is linking investment in infrastructure or investment in housing, or I'm not quite sure of the link between what element of investment Senator Whitten is concerned about. But I certainly accept that from state and territory governments, investment in infrastructure for growing cities is a challenge. I wouldn't link it to the overseas migration numbers. We have seen a big, significant pull forward, Senator Whitten, in response to the borders being closed, and some of that have been people that have been here who are staying here and not leaving.
Minister Gallagher, please resume your seat. Senator Roberts.
Point of order, Chair. The question was really simple, as Senator Gallagher said in the first place. We want to know the link between immigration and productivity. That's it.
Thank you, Senator Roberts. It was indeed me who said the question was simple, and I meant it was short. You also linked it to investment, so I think the minister is being directly relevant to the question. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. On the productivity challenge, I mean the productivity challenge across Australia has been, has been a challenge for some time. In fact, as we've said in this place, that the worst decade was actually under the coalition government. Yes, I do understand. Thank you, Senator Ruston. I understand completely. The productivity challenge is broader. There are broad reasons that underpin the productivity challenge, and indeed productivity challenges in Australia are comparable and similar to the challenges that are being experienced by like-minded economies around the world. Thank you for your help, Senator Ruston.
Thank you. Senator Whitten, first supplementary.
In the past 10 years, the only time that productivity rates increased were the COVID years. These are the only years to have net overseas migration of less than 200,000 people in the last decade. Why does Labor deny the direct correlation between immigration and poor productivity?
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, as I said, the issues around productivity, which are issues that we discussed at length at the roundtable last week, are not linked to the numbers coming through our immigration system, so I don't think it's correct to link the two. There has been slow productivity growth for decades in this country. It is multifaceted about why that is the case, and that is why this government is working with across community, industry, business, unions and others to look at how we can all work together to improve productivity in this country. Now, that includes doing things around skills and training. It includes things like finishing the NBN, abolishing tariffs, ensuring that we've got good jobs growth here in the future made in Australia, and a whole range of other things that we are undertaking, but we are not looking to changes to
Thank you,
net
Minister.
overseas
the time
migration.
for answering has expired. Senator Whitten, second supplementary.
There is a glaringly obvious connection between mass immigration and collapsing productivity. Our infrastructure and housing is buckling under the pressure of Labor's mass migration program. What are you going to tell Australians who are living in tents, in cars, in the streets, while housing is given to immigrants and refugees? What do you say to the people of Western Australia who have seen the biggest jumps in housing prices in the whole country? The people deserve answers. They deserve better.
Thank you, Senator Whitten. Minister Gallagher.
Thank you. Well, I certainly, and over this side, we don't associate ourselves with the imputations contained in your question, Senator Whitten. We don't believe that you advance anything in this country by by pitting one group against another. This government has a very different approach, which is to work across the community, to work with industry, to work with the states and territories where we can, to find areas where we can continue to progress improvements in productivity, but also support areas of shared consensus. So we are looking at things like a single national market, simplified trade and reform tariffs, and this goes to your question about what are we doing, better regulation, looking at how we speed up approvals, of course all the work that we're doing in housing. We need to build more housing. Not enough housing was built. We had 10 years of those opposite doing nothing in housing. We are fixing that.
Thank you, Minister. Senator Ghosh.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Minister for Climate Change and Energy, Senator Ayres. The Albanese government was re-elected with a renewed mandate to lower emissions and deliver affordable and cleaner energy systems. The election was an endorsement of the government's practical policies to reduce emissions. What progress is being made on meeting Australia's climate targets, and how is the government lowering emissions while strengthening our economy?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Ayres.
Well, President, thank you, and Senator Ghosh, thank you for that question. The truth is that Australia is tracking well in terms of meeting our 2030 climate target. In the year to March, 440 million tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent were recorded. That is 6.5 million tonnes lower than the year before and 28% below 2005 levels. Preliminary data from the year to June is lower again at 436 million tonnes. Emissions are lower than at any point under the previous government. And the government is meeting the electorate's call to address climate change with policies that also strengthen the economy. For example, under the Capacity Investment Scheme, we will deliver 40 gigawatts of competitive generation and storage, and it has unlocked tens of billions of dollars in new investment in industrial energy and home energy capacity. So far, developers who have won Capacity Investment Scheme contracts have committed to more than $14 billion in spending on local content, local jobs, local fabrication, local electrical contracting in regional communities, 10,000 jobs during construction. The Cheaper Home Battery Scheme, as of today, 41,000 batteries in 41,000 Australian homes that will have lower home power bills because they all use cheap electricity from their roof all day and store it during the day. That is 41,000 households who would be paying more but for the scheme that this government introduced on the back of the election where people spoke very clearly about the direction forward in terms of energy policy.
Senator Ghosh, first supplementary.
Since the Albanese government's first term, there has been strong investment in renewable energy and storage infrastructure. At the same time, the ongoing reforms to Australia's gas market are the most significant in a decade. Why is it in Australia's national interest to meet our climate targets and to have an internationally competitive energy system?
Thank you, Senator Ghosh. Minister Ruston.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've just elevated you. Sorry.
I just experienced some small cognitive dissonance, but I thought I'd get on with it in case I misheard, President.
Beg your pardon, Minister Ayres and Senator Ruston.
Yeah, that's right. She wants me to say something and you not to, I think is the trick. The first thing that you must have, of course, is policy certainty. Under the last government, 4 gigawatts left the system, 1 gigawatt went in. The truth was what should have happened was tens of gigawatts of electricity, new electricity generation should have gone into the system. New transmission should have gone into the system over that decade, and we are working our way through the legacy of capital flight, which is what happened under the previous government. Investment in onshore wind and offshore wind and solar and gas and storage that should have happened over the last decade, should have supplied more electricity generation for Australian industry, didn't happen. Capital flight, disinvestment, industrial challenges, all because this lot opposite could not bring themselves over the course of 22 failed energy policy frameworks. I mean, if you get it wrong once—
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Ghosh, second supplementary.
Thank you, Minister. The economy will be strengthened by the significant investment needed to meet our climate targets and building an internationally competitive energy system. What are the barriers to this investment, and what parts of the community will be affected if it does not occur?
Minister Ayres.
Well, this is, of course, nation-building work. This work, the work of new wind and new solar and new transmission, is nation-building work. It is blue-collar industry-building work. It is the kind of work that is going to set our regions up for future jobs and future factories and future industries and more economic resilience. And the chief barrier to that, of course, is policy uncertainty. We saw the outcome. We saw the outcome of the kind of policy dysfunction while this lot were in government. We saw the behaviour last year in the lead-up to the election, which saw them proposing a policy framework which would have delivered less electricity, more expensive, and now we can see they haven't learnt their lesson. They're doing the same thing again. They're going back to the well, and what there will be—
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator Ruston. Senator Ruston. Well, sorry, I have Senator Ruston on my list. Senator McLaughlin.
Thank you, President. My question is to the Minister representing the Prime Minister, Senator Wong. The devastating South Australian algal bloom now covers 4,500 square kilometres across the coastline and the Great Australian Bight. International scientist and director of the US National Office for Harmful Algal Blooms, Dr Donald Anderson, has labelled this bloom as one of the worst recorded algal blooms in the world. 18 months ago, scientists called for the federal government to monitor the bloom. 5 months ago, scientists and local businesses called for support when marine life washed up dead on our beaches. Minister, when did the South Australian government first officially raise the issue of the algal bloom with the federal government?
Thank you, Senator McLaughlin. Minister Wong.
Thank you, President, and thank you to Senator McLaughlin for this question. And he might recall that I made a contribution to the Senate in the last sitting week in some detail on the developments regarding the algal bloom in my home state of South Australia. In relation to the first date for government, I will take that. I will see whether I can provide further information to you. I can say to you that I certainly reached out to the Deputy Premier and Minister for the Environment in early July in relation to this issue. Obviously, I'm sure you, Senator, all South Australians have been very deeply distressed by the loss of marine life, by the state of our coastline and by the ecological the dreadful ecological event that we have seen. I understand that Mr Watt and the Prime Minister have met with a delegation of mayors and local industry members, I believe today, I'm just checking, which a number of senators, South Australian senators and MPs were in attendance to understand that there was an update from the ministers in relation to the government's response to the bloom. I know that Minister Watt went to South Australia, I think it was on the 21st of July, announced some funding. The Prime Minister also visited on the 20th of August to announce further federal support and to inspect the bloom. Now, obviously, this is an event which, as the Deputy Premier has explained publicly, is not unknown in terms of natural causes. But you'd have to say, given what many scientists are saying, the contribution of climate change to this dreadful event is self-evident.
Senator McLaughlin, first supplementary.
Thank you, President. The South Australian algal bloom is causing great harm. Fisher Pool Germain hasn't caught a fish and Steve Bowley has not sold an oyster for more than 100 days. Stan's Republican Rob Rankin's revenues are down, and Christie's Beach surfer Zoe Brooks has said surfers are getting sick. Minister, noting that there has been a delegation of local government officials, as you've mentioned in your answer, has visited the Prime Minister today, when will the Prime Minister provide the level of support that they have requested?
Thank you, Senator McLachlan. Minister Wong.
Senator, if I can first, I understand from Senator Watt that he first engaged with Deputy Premier Close in late May or early June, and I'm advised that there has been regular contact since then between the South Australian Minister and the Federal Minister and also the Prime Minister and the Premier. So that's in relation to your first question. In relation to industry support, obviously part of the $14 million was contributed to a package which included industry support. Like you, Senator, I know personally small businesses and coastal communities who have been very economically affected by the state of our coastline and by the scale of marine life lost. Will continue to be engaged with the South Australian Government about this, and we hope that we can see this resolve.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering has expired. Senator McLachlan, second supplementary.
Thank you, President. Last week, the Prime Minister visited South Australia and committed an additional $6.25 million in immediate support for South Australians in need. Millions have been appropriately provided to support Whyalla, another coastal town, for its challenges. Why isn't the same level of support being afforded South Australian, in particular our coastal communities?
Thank you, Senator McLachlan. Minister Wong.
Senator, as a South Australian, you would know, I think they're very that we have provided assistance and will continue to engage with the South Australian Government about what is required. In relation to Whyalla, that is a very important part of the state economy, and you would know, Senator, that successive governments in relation to that steel facility have recognised the importance to the state and to the domestic state and national economy, and also the struggles that many in the steel sector face, or the iron sector face at this time, given global circumstances. So we make no apology for seeking to invest.
Order.
Well, I'm surprised that a South Australian senator is complaining about investment in Whyalla. I am very surprised that a South Australian senator, not you, Senator, Senator Ruston, complaining about investment in South Australia.
Order. Order. Senator Ruston.
On a point of order, I'd ask you to ask the minister not to verbal me incorrectly.
Senator Ruston, that is not a point of order. Don't interject. Minister Wong.
And I ask the further questions be placed on notice.